Welcome to what is the last episode of Worthy Mother podcast as we know it. Don't worry, the podcast is not going anywhere, but it is about to undergo a massive evolution. And I'm so glad you're here.
Welcome to Worthy Mother podcast. I'm your host, Emily Hardy, a mom of two on a mission to help moms everywhere feel less alone. This is not a parenting podcast. Instead, it's a space for pushing back against societal expectations of perfection and embracing self-compassion in your motherhood journey. Let's get into it.
Hey, it's Emily, and I would love to formally welcome you to what is the official last episode of Worthy Mother podcast as we know it. Starting in January 2026, this podcast will have a brand new name, a whole new look, and a very different feel. But I will still continue with my mission of challenging societal expectations on moms and exploring the nuances of modern motherhood through honest conversations. I am going to talk a little bit about that transition in this episode, but really I want to get into the pull that I felt for an evolution to happen and how, as moms, as humans, it is so common for us to feel a pull towards evolution, but less common that we know what to do with it or that we feel like we have the capability to act on it in that moment. So that is what we're going to get into in this episode. Before we do, I want to ask that if you are not yet subscribed to the podcast on your podcast listening platform of choice, please make sure to do that. With the name changing, it may be hard to find the podcast come January 1st if you have not subscribed to the podcast. So make sure you hit subscribe. Also, follow along on Instagram. You can follow me at Honestly Emily Rose or find the podcast at Worthy Mother Podcast. Again, that handle will be changing soon, but if you follow along, you'll be in the right place for all the big announcements to come. I am so grateful you're here, and I am so grateful that you have been a part of these conversations over the last 3.5 years. About 4 or 5 months ago, I was having a conversation with my coach, Jen Johnson. She was a guest on this podcast earlier this year. And I brought up the fact that in my personal life, with my divorce and the growth that I've had after that, there's been a lot of evolution. And I was feeling this pull for this brand that I've created, this podcast, this platform that I've created to evolve with that. And in that moment, I didn't know what that pull meant. I didn't know exactly what I was hoping for, but I felt this pull. And this is a sensation that I have felt at other times in my life. It's this pull for something more, this pull for growth, this pull for change that is aligned with who we are as a person. And I imagine that you can probably relate to that feeling of being pulled in some direction. You might not know what direction it is. You might not know what exactly you're called to, but it's this moment of knowing that it's time to shift, whatever that means. And so often in life, especially in motherhood, when there's so many things vying for our attention at all times, it can be hard to take the time and the energy and the focus to really address that pull. And it takes a lot of courage to make the space to address that pull. But I want to share with you what the experience of responding to this pull and allowing myself to evolve has been like for me, and also offer some thoughts on how you can allow yourself to evolve in alignment, despite the hectic chaos that you may be surrounded by in motherhood. Because here's the thing, feeling that nudge to grow, to evolve is completely normal. It's so normal for us as humans to want to shift and grow, or to come to a place in life where things feel out of alignment because we've just been doing things the way we always have. Particularly in motherhood, when we are so often in autopilot, it makes sense that sometimes we hit this wall of like, this isn't right. Something feels out of alignment and I'm ready for something more. I'm ready for something different. It's not uncommon for moms to feel a nudge that their life needs to change, whether that's something in their identity, in their routines, in their expectations, their relationships, their work, in the way that they express themselves creatively. This pull can feel like restlessness, like an uneasiness, like a sense of dissatisfaction. Can feel like a whisper of curiosity, like wondering if there is something more for you, wondering if there's a path to explore that you've never explored before. It can feel like misalignment, this like icky feeling where there's tension within you because you know that what you're doing isn't what you're supposed to be doing. And it can feel like a sense of outgrowing. We create these lives for ourselves, and some of it may be done intentionally, but some of it may just be the way we've always done it. And it's possible and probable that if you're working on yourself, you may be outgrowing something in your life. And that pull, that nudge for something different can be absolutely terrifying. It invites us out of our comfort zone. It is calling us to do something differently than we've ever done it. But sometimes that pull gets so strong that we have to act on it. And in my own life, I saw this full force after my separation in 2024. I started on this journey of learning more about myself because I came face to face with the reality that a relationship that had taken me from the time I was 17 through my 20s had ended. And I now was in this position of having to look at everything that had made up my identity in the past 12 years and look what was in alignment and what wasn't, because there were changes that were going to naturally happen. And so there's been a personal evolution with that. But there also was something inside of me that knew that this brand that I'd created, the platform that I'd created, I'd actually started to outgrow what I had created for myself. And so I felt that pull, and it started as a tiny whisper of maybe there's something to look at here. But when I was able to start processing that, I saw that there was opportunity for a massive evolution. And something important here to acknowledge is that evolving doesn't mean the old way was wrong. It doesn't mean that what we were doing or how we were existing was wrong, but it means that we may be ready for something different. And when we feel like we are ready for that something different, it's important to look at the way you've been doing things and realign, intentionally realign. Because again, as I said, we can get so caught in autopilot that we're not even really aware of what we're doing and how we're existing. And if we want to evolve into a space where there is more fulfillment, where we are more aligned, we have to intentionally realign and check in with what's working, what's not working, what we want to carry on with us. And so I personally had to do a lot of reflection after feeling that pull to understand how I could move forward and act on that pull in alignment with myself. So a lot of that reflection was on my own, journaling, really like thinking about it intentionally on walks, doing things to really process what I was thinking and experiencing and how I wanted that to look on my own. But it also happened in conversation with my therapist, in conversation with my coach, and in conversation with close friends that I have, where I could bounce ideas off of them and just really dig in and process out loud what I was feeling, what felt like something I needed to be in alignment with my intentions and what I actually wanted. This process of realigning, this process of checking in is so important. So I want to offer some questions that if you are in a place where you feel a pull and you want to move forward with that pull, some questions you can ask yourself and reflect on, again, by yourself or with someone else to help you in that process. The first question that I would ask myself is, does this version of me still fit me? Again, the ways of being have served us, but they may not serve you anymore. It may be something you've outgrown, and it's important to check in. Does it still fit me? What am I craving more of? Is there something missing in your life that you want more of? What am I ready to release? What is no longer in alignment that I can let go of? So often when we are feeling that pull to do something differently, we miss the step of realignment because as moms, there is so much else vying for our attention, and actually stopping to be intentional can be really challenging. We might be stuck in survival mode, trying to figure out how to get our kids where they need to go and get them fed and make sure that we have enough sleep and all these things, right? Like there's so many pieces. But if we actually want to evolve in a way that is aligned with what we actually want to get us to that place of feeling fulfilled, we have to pause long enough to get honest with ourselves about what it means to be in alignment. So for me, I had this inkling in the pull of what needed to happen next. But I knew that if I acted right away, without pausing, without having those intentional conversations, without really looking at what exists now and what of what exists now is what I want and maybe what I want more of, and what of what exists now is something that I want to let go of. If I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be able to evolve in this particular situation with the alignment needed for this to feel really, really good. So for me, I really evaluated the purpose of this shift, why I was doing this in the first place, why I felt this call, and why I was answering the call. And it took a while to really get the clarity I needed to be able to move forward in alignment, asking myself those questions, having conversations, reflecting with others on what the purpose of all of this is and how I could translate the purpose into this new rendition, this new evolution of what the podcast and platform is. And then I felt a sense of clarity in the direction I wanted to go in, and I actually started working on it. But it wasn't until I had that clarity after doing a lot of alignment work that I decided to take those steps and to announce this to you, because I knew that if this evolution was going to be worth it, if it was going to be something worth putting my time and attention into, that it needed to be happening in alignment. It needed to be something that would feel like a good fit when the transition happens. And part of getting that clarity was deciding what I was ready to let go of, what I had outgrown. Making room in your life is an essential part of that intentionality behind the evolution. You have to give yourself the space to be able to look at what is it that I want and what is it that I don't want here. And as busy moms, we know that creating time and space is not always easy, but it's a necessary part of the process if we are going to evolve, if we are choosing to evolve. For us as moms, creating space can look like saying no to things that maybe don't serve you, but also to things that maybe do serve you, but in this moment, you need to reclaim that time and energy. It can look like dropping the guilt around rest, allowing yourself to just be and exist and tune in without the pressure and need to be being productive and serving someone else at all times. It can look like changing your expectations, deciding that you're not necessarily always going to be showing up at 150% when there are other things that you want to be focusing your attention on. And it can look like taking an intentional pause. Transformation usually does happen in the quiet moments. It requires a sense of reflection that we really can only have if we give ourselves the time and space to reflect. So for me, in this experience of evolving the brand and the podcast, I have done a little of all these things. I have reevaluated certain priorities and given myself more space where I can. But I also have decided that there will be a pause in December. I know that to deliver the most amazing evolved version of this podcast, I need space. It's not because I want to step away. It's because I am excited to step into something that is more aligned, something that is more impactful, and something that is just more inspired overall. And so while there has been so much work going on behind the scenes here, because again, I've been able to shift certain priorities and give myself that space, December will look different for the podcast. Instead of sharing new episodes of Worthy Mother podcast, you will hear handpicked replays from the most meaningful, popular, or personally important episodes. These are all incredible episodes, so I strongly suggest that even if you've listened to these episodes in the past, you give them a re-listen, and if you haven't, take this opportunity to hear these incredible conversations, because come January, there is going to be so much goodness in the new rendition, the new evolution of this podcast. Again, I am so excited to share. I'm not going to share any major details right now, but I'm like pumped and so amped and so ready to just let you in on all of what I've been building. It is really vulnerable talking about this type of evolution that I have been going through. Again, this is something that is so tied to my personal life and the evolution that I've been on as a person, as an individual, going through a separation and coming into my own in the aftermath of that. But what I have been working on for the next phase of Worthy Mother podcast is something I am so proud of, and I am so grateful that I've had the time and space to be really intentional about this. If you are feeling a pull towards evolution, if you feel like you are misaligned in any area of your life, or you have outgrown what you've created for yourself, I would love to offer you some prompts to think about, to journal on, to talk through with somebody close to you or that you really trust in your life. If you have a pen and paper and you are not doing something like driving a car or washing the dishes, I definitely suggest you write these down so you can journal on them over the next couple of weeks. Where in your life do you feel a pull toward evolution? What feels misaligned right now? What would it look like to pause or to create space in your life? What version of you is ready to emerge next? What is one small step you can take to honor that? Thank you so much for being a part of Worthy Mother podcast over the last 3.5 years. This is not the end. It is really only the beginning of something so much bigger and bolder, and honestly, just so much more me, so much more in alignment with the messages that I want to share with you. Growth is not just something that we experience, it is something that we actively choose. And I have chosen to grow and evolve this podcast in this way. I want you to know that you can grow and evolve in whatever way you feel called to. You deserve to evolve. You deserve to live in alignment. And you deserve space in your life for what is becoming. With that, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Honestly Emily Rose and at Worthy Mother Podcast. For the very last time, you are worthy, Mama.